Hi, I'm Matt Jameson, and as one of the hosts of Leeds Pride 2024, I'm working with Welcome to Leeds to bring a series of interviews with some of the prominent LGBTQ+ community ahead of the festival. So today we're joined with Jonathan Pryor, who is the Deputy Leader for Leeds City Council. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Thank you. And it's so exciting this year because Leeds Pride is taking on a new lease of life, and it's one of those things that's going to really highlight the city, I think. And can you tell us a little bit about your involvement and what Leeds City Council have been doing working with the new Pride Committee for this year's event?
So this is going to be our, I think, 19th year of Leeds Pride, and we've had a bit of change in committee, so there's a bit of new leadership. So as a city, as a council, we wanted to take this opportunity to just see if we can make it bigger. People who've been to Leeds Pride before know that it is getting more and more popular every year. So it was like, how do we lean into that? From almost like a cold economic perspective, it is one of the biggest events in the Leeds calendar. Of course,
well, the biggest event.
The biggest event,
yeah.
And I think it's so important to remember that Pride started as a protest, and while it has moved on a bit, it's a celebration now. It still has that element. It's still got that kind of outward-facing element where we are showing people that we are here, we're proud. It's there to show kind of young LGBTQ people that, you know, we exist, there's a future, and I think just having it bigger and better will just be fantastic for the city and just send a great message to everyone who lives in Leeds.
Can I ask as well then, from a council point of view, the infrastructure then, it's going to be bigger and better, got Cllr involved.
Of course.
What kind of goes into that process of delivering such a massive event here in Leeds?
So we start every year, our first meeting for Pride is usually about a week or two after Pride.
Really? Yeah.
We get started straight away. It's up there with Christmas, with the sort of big things we've got to prepare for. And it's everything from making sure we've got kind of the right stages, making sure the road closures are in place, making sure there's the right licenses for kind of the street parties, as well as working with other organisations to make sure there's enough other things going on, because as much as I enjoy, you know, a drink or two on the street, Pride is about so much more than that.
What's the thing you're most excited about at this year's event?
For me, it's always the parade.
Yeah.
For me, you know, the march, the parade, whatever you want to call it, that's been getting bigger every year. I've not lived in Leeds all my life. I moved here in 2010, and I remember the first parade then the first parade I saw in 2010. Was we were kind of marching down the street, and it was a decent size. But the people watching were kind of people who'd nipped out to the shops and were a bit kind of bemused about what's going on.
Just walked into it, and suddenly there's this parade happening.
What have I stumbled across?
Yeah.
And in recent years, it's not that. You know, you walk. Have you been in the parade?
I've done it a few times, yeah,
and
definitely.
You know that kind of as you walk down the street, the crowds are huge, and they're there to support. They don't just happen to be there. They've come out specifically because it's Pride. I think the thing that I find so special about Leeds Pride is that we've kept it a free event.
Exactly.
And I think, as much as I do enjoy Manchester, there's part of it that feels like a festival. And I think about Leeds, you know, we're keeping that, you know, you don't have to pay to be Pride. We're kind of so welcoming, so inclusive. For me, for us as a council, I think keeping Leeds Pride free has got to remain at the heart of everything we do.
We talked a little bit about coming out stories here, and I was 15, so I was quite young, still at school when I came out. What's your coming out story? Where did your LGBTQ+ journey begin?
I was a bit older than, I think I must have been 17, I think. So I don't know about you, I think I knew I was different from as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
Even like way into primary school.
I agree.
But you don't really know what it is at primary school because it's not sexual because you're so young. And I think I realised what that was when I was maybe about 11 or 12. You know, that's when kind of, you know, people start getting boyfriends, girlfriends, and you just kind of, you realise no, I'm not interested in
Yeah,
that.
that's the thing, isn't it? All your friends are getting girlfriends, and you're like, what's the big deal?
Yeah,
I'm not feeling it.
No,
but then I think there's a moment where you kind of realise, actually, it's not the girls I'm interested in.
Yes, yeah.
So tell us about that.
So, I, in a very stereotypical way, got involved in musical theatre, of course.
Didn't we all?
Didn't we all? Yes. And I think that I was a really shy kid. I still am probably quite introverted, but actually get involved in the theatre allowed me to kind of find myself a bit. And for me, kind of my coming out story is linked to my entry into politics as well.
Okay.
When I was growing up at the same time that the then Labour government was changing a lot of the legislation.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of when I was 11 or 12 and realising that I was gay was the time that the government was repealing Section 28. Mm-hmm. When I was kind of 13 or 14, that's when the government introduced civil partnerships, lifted the ban on gays serving in the military, allowed equal access to IVF for lesbians. So for me, it was I saw a political party righting the wrong of kind of gay people being second-class citizens. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's, I suppose, a mix of my coming out story and my political journey as well.
And when you told your parents and came out to family and friends, that was all a smooth transition?
More or less. Yeah. I mean, I was in college at that point, and you know, you kind of face all of the things young gay people do then as well. You know, I was a lot smaller and camper then, so you kind of get.
Have you decamped yourself?
I've decamped a little bit, not consciously. I think I just got a bit older.
Well, I guess in the
and you know, coming back to Pride, that's what's so incredible about Pride.
Exactly.
You can just walk down the street with absolutely kind of no fear. You're around friends. You're in a kind of safe environment. You can be your authentic self. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why Pride is so special to so many LGBTQ people. What
are you looking forward to then? What's the most exciting thing that you're thinking of about Pride this year? I know you've said the parade.
I always love the parade because it just feels really special. I go on a bit of a tour as well of some of the religious organisations as well.
Okay.
So in the past, I've been up to the Sinai Synagogue. They have a special Pride service. Mm-hmm. Last year, I spoke at part of the sermon at All Hallows Church in Hyde Park.
Love All Hallows.
It's fantastic,
I love All Hallows Church.
And I know that this year, is it the Minster?
The Minster, yes. I'm involved in that as well because I'm speaking.
Fantastic.
I'm speaking at that event.
I had quite a religious upbringing, and while I don't really know where my faith is now, but the fact that there are faith groups that will welcome gay people, I think is kind of so special and so important.
What was the thought behind the date change then, moving it forward?
So I think when Leeds Pride was a bit smaller, it was very much a kind of, you know, local pride for local people sort of thing. It was that sort of,
Royston-Versey.
Yeah, absolutely. It was not introspective, but it was for Leeds people.
Yeah.
As kind of time's gone on, Leeds has grown and grown and grown, and we were competing with Brighton Pride that apparently, I don't know, several 100,000 people go to.
Well, yeah, that's one of the flagship events, isn't it, across the UK?
And we were competing with, I think, Amsterdam Pride was on the same day, which again was a massive one across Europe.
Right.
And it was just reaching the point where actually Leeds Pride couldn't grow on that date. So there's always going to be a clash, but not clashing with probably two of the two biggest prides in Europe. Probably a sensible decision. There's so much room for growth. So this year is almost kind of the first year of a new and expanding Leeds Pride.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Not at all.
It's been lovely to chat to you, and I'll see you at Leeds Pride.
See you there.